Hi, Tarik. How are you?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Good. Thanks for waiting so patiently.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so Tarik is just her background. She has a background as a probation officer. Um, and she is going to be talking to us about our rights as citizens and also how to conduct ourselves when it comes to, with police, but then also how to talk to our kids about how to conduct themselves when they're in contact by the police or picked up by the police. I just wanted to share like a really quick stat that I found before she gets started. So just because we're talking about racial injustice and policing here in this category, in 2019, 24% of all police killings were of Black Americans when they only make up 13% of the US population. And 99% of all the officers involved in those police killings had no criminal charges pressed against them. And overall, Black Americans were 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police, and that was by an organization called Mapping Police Violence. In this climate, there's a lot of fear of, against police officers by adults, also by, teens, and there's a lot that needs to happen, but I think more importantly, knowing our rights and what we need to be telling our kids about how to conduct themselves when they are picked up or approached by police is important. And so Tarik will be talking to us about that. So Tarik, what should we do and not do when we're contacted by the police? And what should we be telling our kids about that?
Yes. When contacted by a police officer, it's very important that we remain calm and we are polite to the police officer. You have to be aware of your words, your tone of voice, and your body language. Your mouth can say one thing, but your body language can definitely convey a different message. It's very important to keep your hands where they can be seen and not to make any sudden movements. Definitely do not run away from the police officer that's talking to you. This will make the officer think that you have something to hide or that you've done something wrong. So it's very important to talk with the officer. Now, during a stop, you can refuse to a search of your person, of your body, your purse, and your belongings. However, if they ask you your name, you have to tell them your name. A lot of times the police are looking for individuals in the area and they want to make sure, they're not talking to the person they're looking for. So it's important to tell your name. Definitely do not touch the police officer. I know that sounds obvious, but when you're in the heat of the moment and you're in a confrontation with a police officer and you're upset that they've stopped you and that they're possibly accusing you of a crime, it's very emotional, but it's very important to remember not to touch the police officer. That can cause you to be tased. It can cause you to be beaten and charged with assaulting an officer, or even worse. Never tell a police officer that you're going to file a complaint. This will cause unnecessary aggression from the officer. If you are driving and you're pulled over by the police, pull over immediately when it is safe to do so. You can turn off the vehicle and definitely keep both hands on the steering wheel. If you have a front seat passenger, make sure your passenger has both hands on the dashboard and your rear passengers have their hands on the headrest of the front seats. Now, for children, I don't think that's a big concern. Officers don't see children as threat, but if you have, teenagers or adults in your vehicle, it's very important to show the officers that you're not hiding anything, or you're not trying to hurt them. Let's see. Now, the police do have the authority to ask you to get out of the car. However, the only way they can search you or your car is if you give them permission, if they have reasonable cause to believe that a crime has occurred, or if they have a warrant. Okay? If they ask you, can we search your car? You have a right to say no. Okay? You can ask them, am I being detained? You can ask, am I being arrested? Please don't say, I know my rights, or I know an attorney. Again, this will show the officers that you're combative, and they can be aggressive with you. Let's see. Do not waive your rights. If they ask you, hey, we just want to ask you a couple of questions, they're looking for information. Okay, their job is to keep the streets safe, and if they feel you're a threat to the safety, they want to arrest you. So please make it an even playing field for yourself by asserting your rights. Now, what to do if you are picked up by the police? Again, exercise your right to remain silent. They tell you when you're being arrested, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have a right to an attorney. Believe them when they tell you this, because everything you say and do will be used against you. Even statements that seem non-threatening, the police can twist words. So please be mindful of your words. If you are arrested, the police have to tell you of the charges that you're being arrested for and the laws that you violated. It will be in your interest to let an attorney fight this fight for you. If you are being questioned, don't answer any questions, just ask for an attorney. Your attorney will be more equipped to handling criminal cases or whatever it is that's you're being charged with. Please don't let the officers trick you into making a statement. They can tell you you will be released today, and the police lie. Unfortunately, they have a job to do, and they're going to do whatever they can to complete that mission. So don't give them anything they can use against you. I want to talk about the amendments.
Before you go to the amendments, Tarik, a lot of great information. Thank you. One of the questions that one of the moms asked was, if your teenager is stopped, can they ask the officer to call their parents?
Yes.
They can. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And even if the teenager is taken to the police station, the police has to call their parents because they are a minor. So, yes, that is true. So the Fourth Amendment protects us from unlawful search and seizure, which means the police cannot hold you, detain you, or search you and your property without your permission, a warrant, or reasonable suspicion, like I mentioned earlier. And reasonable suspicion is something that the officer saw or heard to believe that a crime has been committed. If the police have sufficient reasons to believe that a crime is committed, they can arrest you and search you anyway. So if they don't have that, don't give it to them. And that goes for your person, your body, your clothes, your purse, your car, all of your belongings, your home, that is included also. The Fifth Amendment right protects us from self-discrimination. That is telling on ourselves. If a case goes to court, you don't have to testify and tell on yourself. Okay, make the police or make the attorney, the district attorney, or the prosecuting attorney, make them prove what you did. You know, we've heard people say, "I plead the fifth," and that's what they're talking about when they say, "I don't want to discriminate myself, therefore I'm not going to admit to anything." And definitely do not sign anything without an attorney unless it is a promise to appear. Now, you can sign a promise to appear. That's not an admission of guilt, but that is just saying that you were given this permission, this court summons, and that you will appear in court. Okay. The Sixth Amendment right guarantees our right to know the charges against us, the evidence against us, and a right to an attorney. You have to make yourself part of the process. Okay, you can't just say, "Oh, the attorney's going to take care of it," because some public defenders, they're overworked, underpaid, and they're not going to put as much effort into your case as we would like. So make yourself part of the process. Make sure you stay on top of your attorney so that there's no shortcuts taken and that they are working in your best interest. Okay. A lot of young Black men and women have been incarcerated for crimes that their white counterparts were not given the same opportunity. So I don't know if that is clear, saying if a African American young man or woman commits the same crime as a white man or woman, things can go very differently because of their race. And that starts from the arrest itself. Officers have the discretion of giving you a summons in court until you just appear in court, or they can detain you and arrest you and put you in jail. Okay, and after you are arrested and put in jail, there's a bail hearing. The judge will determine how much of a risk you are to the community, and there's discretion there. So you have to protect yourself in this very difficult fight. And then at sentencing, it's the same thing. I see Caucasian defendants and African American defendants do not receive the same punishments. So the cards are really against us in the criminal justice system. I've seen African Americans confess to crimes they haven't committed because they want to get released from jail and go back to their family, their children. And then having been convicted of a crime has its own ramifications. You can be banned from government assistance. You can be excluded from student financial aid. You know, there's a lot of penalties for being convicted of a felony and a crime. Let's see. There was a question. There are communities that are close, that have close relationships with the police. And how do we build close relationships with the police? There are communities that have really good relationships with the police department in their community. One example is a small town that I lived in North Carolina. The city was called Fuquay-Varina. And the police department there held annual family day. And they had an event at the park. They had jump houses for the children. They served hot dogs and chips and soda. They had a fire truck there and a police patrol car. And they allowed the community to come take a look, ask questions, and just communicate with the community that they serve. Okay. And they also had coffee with a cop. So, and this was for, you know, a small, let's say a private interaction. If you want to sit and talk over coffee with a police officer and address your concerns, that was definitely an option in that town. Now, being from a large city, I'm from San Diego, California. I don't know if the police departments there do that, but it's definitely something that we all can call the police department and say, hey, I have an idea of how we can make relations with the public, you know, just to bring up conversation and get together with the police department. I think the police killings are due to fear. The officers, I think, that have been part of the killings of young Black men and women, I don't think they're equipped to defend themselves in a situation without resorting to deadly force. That's a sad reality, especially because a lot of the young men and women that have been killed have not been armed. They don't seem like they were a threat. So it's very disheartening to see that these young people that were killed were unarmed, and I don't believe they were a threat. I wasn't there, but I mean, there's tasers, you guys have batons. I mean, I think there's other non-deadly weapons that could have been used during those situations. And I think, Maria, you asked if this was a case of a few bad apples or if there's something wrong with the criminal justice system. I definitely believe it's both. There are definitely some bad cops out there. And I do also believe there's a lot more good cops out there. But what we're seeing today and in the past is the few bad cops that have made some bad decisions. I also think that the criminal justice system is completely unfair. You know, the laws don't apply to everyone equally, and that's not right. People of color are not given the same treatment, you know, during the contact with the police. You know, like I said, the arrest, the bail, the sentencing. I think we're seeing many more cases of unarmed young Black men and women and children. You know, there have been young teenagers that have been killed by police officers. I think we're seeing it more because everyone has cameras on their telephone. I think it has been happening for a long time, you know, back to Rodney King and Emmett Till. I think it's been happening for a long time, and I think with this new case with George Foreman, I think it's opened a lot of eyes in the community, politicians, you know, very successful people in power. So I do hope that this case will bring a change, and I don't think racism will go away completely, but I do believe this case will bring some improvement to racial relations in this country. Let's see. While the laws have changed in this country to help the public Like I said, the reality is that the protections of the law do not apply to everyone equally. And the community of color continue to endure discrimination and trauma because of it. And we have to make our voices heard. We have to be in a position to make ourselves present. You know, we have to vote and make sure we place people in power that have our best interests at heart. And I just hope that one day, you know, everyone will be able to see each other as an individual and not, you know, based on the color of their skin, not just an African American person. So I think this country has a long way to go, but I think it is on its way.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Tarik. That's a lot of great information. A lot of the rights I didn't even know about. One of the questions that one of the moms was asking is, even though we have the right to refuse a search, as African Americans, does that escalate the situation?
It shouldn't. Now, like I said, there's good cops and bad cops. The bad cop is not going to let that slide. You know, if they want to search you, they will do whatever they want. And right now, there are body cameras on the police officers that can show the incident. But you do have that right. And it's part of the Constitution. And, you know, sadly, the police, they're placed in a position of authority, and their word is accepted more often than the public, you know, but they're also held to a higher standard. So they have to tell the truth, and it would be in your best interest to tell the truth on your side as well. Admit to any guilt or anything like that.
Yeah. And then another question was, and I think it was a question, or not sure if it was a statement. Do you think that defunding, and if I'm asking it wrong, just let me know, but do you think that defunding the police department is helpful? That's something that's kind of been going around on social media, and people have been talking about it. Some of the mayors and some of the cities have taken on that task of defunding the police department. Is that something that could help in this situation? Do you see that being a solution, or a positive solution that would bring on change?
I think it can. When police officers are working on duty overtime, you know, it's very important that that they're held accountable for their actions. And if it takes, you know, removing monies from the department, then I'm for it. You know, I would agree with that. So I'm not sure if that will take away from the services that they provide to the community. I'm not sure if that will be affected in any way, but the police officers do have to be made aware that this is not okay.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of questions here, but for time's sake, we are going to maybe address them. I may have to email some of these questions and then maybe have them addressed like by text, or maybe have you back on for like a Facebook Live on Habesha Moms. So thank you again, Tarik, for that great information and for taking the time to be here with us today. I appreciate you.